You're listening to Words vs. Words with Friends podcast, a fun interactive podcast where we challenge your mind and perspective using everyday words and phrases. You haven't heard a podcast like this before. It's more than a discussion, it's a debate. Now let's join hosts Joeleen, Santiago, and Shemeka Montgomery for an all-new episode.
Hey, welcome to Words vs. Words with Friends podcast. This is a fun, interactive podcast where we challenge your mind and perspective using everyday words and phrases. I am so sorry, guys. I missed you last week. I was feeling a little bit under the weather, but I am so happy to be back tonight. I'm so happy that you can join us for our episode on Stubborn versus Defiant. I am your host, Joeleen Santiago, and I have my co-host here, Shemeka Montgomery.
Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight to Words vs. Words with Friends podcast. We are so excited to be back this week with our very special guest. Words vs. Words with Friends is a podcast created to bring back the real art of conversation. We're going to create dialogue and also help you think outside the box. So for tonight, as you can see sitting beside me, we have a very special guest, Kristen Yarbrough. She is my baby sister. She is in social work. She has a heart for people. She is adventurous. She is a traveler. She is full of wisdom. Also, she is someone who has helped me discover who Shemeka is. And so we just want to welcome Kristen Yarbrough to the show tonight.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, welcome, Kristen. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, so tonight we have Stubborn versus Defiant. So this is gonna be a good one, Joe, because we got some stubborn people out there and we got some that are very defiant. So for those definitions, for stubborn, we have having or showing dogged determination not to change one's attitude or position on something, especially despite good arguments or reasons to do so. And then for defiant, we have showing a disposition to challenge, resist, or fight. So those are the two definitions we have for stubborn and defiant. We have some scenarios tonight. We want to welcome everybody. We want that feedback. We want that perspective tonight. If you have questions for our guest, you can ask her any questions you would like. So we're going to jump into those scenarios. So for scenario 1, we have giving children instruction. Okay, so here's the scenario. So you tell your child to pick up their clothes up off the floor, fold them, and put them away. They decide to put the clothes away the way they want to by balling them up and stuffing them in the drawer. So I want to know, Joe, is this being stubborn? Is the child being stubborn or is the child being defiant?
I'm saying stubborn, okay? Because, like if we look at that definition again, it is a dogged determination not to change one's attitude or position. Mm-hmm. So because the way that I look at it is that this child cleaned the room, but this child was so set on doing it the way that they wanted to do it, and that to me shows that you're not changing your position. You're doing it the way that you want to do it. It doesn't matter what your parents tell you. You think that your way is better, so you're going to do it the way that you feel is the best way to you, regardless of what anybody says.
Mm-hmm. So for me, I think that the child was being defiant because the thing is, like the parent specifically told you what to do and how to do it. The child did the complete opposite because they wanted to do it their way. So they were being defiant. And as we know, when we look up defiant, those are the examples that we see. The kids, they usually are the example of someone who's being defiant. So Kristen, as our guest, what are your thoughts? And I should have asked you first as our guest. I do apologize about that.
Well, I don't know if I can play a little bit of devil's advocate, but I don't know that I think they're being either.
Okay.
I think that kind of how you have different perspectives on things. Like you ask them to put the clothes away, they put the clothes away. Just because they didn't do it the way that you would do it, I don't know that that's necessarily. I guess defiance feels like it's a purposeful thing. Being stubborn, maybe kind of set in your ways, so maybe closer to that, but both feel kind of like they're doing it intentionally. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey guys, if you're joining in on Facebook, we want to hear your perspective. Do you guys think that this is an example of being stubborn or defiant? So, I agree, Shemeka, because you said it's a total opposite. So, if it's a total opposite, then that would have been refusing to put the clothes away, even after your parent told you to do so. You refused to do it. So, for me, I don't see defiance there. I see in the scenario, it says that they decide to put the clothes away the way they want to by balling them up. So yes, the clothes were put away, but the stubbornness comes in because you did it the way that you wanted to do it. You were set in your own mind frame. You were set in your own ways. And so it didn't matter how your parents taught you, I know how this works because I have kids myself. So I know, and it's like when you teach them the right way, you teach them how to do it. These are the steps 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. These are the steps to clean it. But then now you choose to do it the way that you want to do it. Like for me, that is stubborn. But if you chose not to clean, if you stomped away and like, I'm not cleaning my room, to me, that would have been defiant. But because, you did it, but you did it with an attitude.
But see, to me, that's why I looked at it as being defiant because growing up, sometimes people use the term you being a smart aleck. You know what I'm saying? Like I told you to do it like this, and you intentionally, like Kristen said, changed the way that you were gonna do it. So to me, that's why I say defiant. I understand because when we think of defiant, we probably think of storming off, having an attitude. But when you ball those clothes up, you had an attitude. So to me, that's being defiant.
See, I feel like, are you making an assumption there though? Because how do you know that the kid had an attitude when they were balling the clothes up?
You know what? But you're right though. But what I wonder, to her question, what I wonder is, does it matter because of the age difference? Like because of the age of you and me, do we see it differently because of that? Because you look at perspective easier, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, in what way do you think parenting was different? You think you were parented differently than I was because we were different ages?
I do sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that because I was so much younger, mom and daddy retired. They were through really trying to tell me exactly how I needed to do things. So I either picked it up the first time or I figured it out myself.
Okay.
So no, there wasn't a lot of like, okay, well, no, I told you to fold the clothes exactly like this. You have to do it exactly this way. There was a little bit more leeway there.
Oh, okay.
Which I think, I think I kind of apply that to kids too. Because those are my clothes. If they're wrinkled, I ain't got nothing to do with me. Like,
wow. So you figured it was done. You figured you did what you had to do. It didn't matter the steps that you took. It was done.
Yeah, at times, especially when I was a teenager, because I wouldn't care about stuff like that. You told me to clean my room, I'm gonna put everything under the bed. It's clean, isn't it? You can walk through.
Well, see, that's your definition of clean, though. But then at the same time, is that where I can see where defiance can come in there? Because, or being stubborn. You know what? I see it more as stubborn because the right way. That your parents have taught you how to do it, and I was talking to a friend one time and I said, well, does it really matter how you get from point A to point B as long as you get to point B? But or does it matter the process that you take to get there? Sometimes we focus on the process of getting from point A to point B, and sometimes some people care about just, hey, you did it, it's done. So I guess it just depends on your parenting skills too, or whatever. Because for me, I probably make a big deal about it because I taught you the right way. I taught you how to fold them clothes. You're not going to just ball them up. So guess what's going to happen? You're going to take them out the drawer and you're going to do it all over again. But if we go back to that definition for defiant, it says it has challenge. So this is someone who will challenge, resist, or fight. So is balling up the clothes, are they challenging the parent? Are they fighting? You can calmly do it without a sound, without making a big dramatic event out of it. You're cleaning. You're
That's
cleaning.
true.
So that it was very, I don't know. What do you think?
I think, so I did a little bit of research. And so the child could have ODD, which is oppositional defiant behavior. So when we look up defiant, a lot of times, like I was saying before, automatically they assume that it's about children being defiant. So they can have a behavior disorder. It is found in childhood. They are uncooperative, defiant, hostile with their peers, teachers, parents, and authority figures. So I think sometimes when we look at kids and see that they're being defiant, I think sometimes it might be a disorder that they have. It doesn't have to necessarily be their attitude or they're trying to be rebellious. There could be things going on inside of them that have not been diagnosed, maybe.
Well, I mean, that's true. That's true for kids who they do the opposite of everything you say. They're defiant on everything that you say. But like,
Mhm.
has there ever been a time, Shemeka, where you just didn't do something because you didn't want to? Did you have ODD?
You know what?
Did you have
I could have. Now, I'm gonna tell you now, because of my personality, I don't think that I did, because I was one of those that if my mama looked at me like this, then side eye, all she had to do was look. She didn't have to whoop, she didn't have to do nothing. All she had to do was give me the look. So I was a little bit more sensitive as a child. So I don't see me being defiant. Now, I might have been a little bit stubborn on some things or being a smart aleck, as some people say, but I don't think growing up I was. Do you think you were?
Yeah, I think I was defiant.
Or stubborn.
I mean, I think that was and am stubborn. Like a lot of
Okay.
people would probably say that I was quietly defiant. Like
Mhm.
I was always going to say yes, ma'am, yes, sir to your face. And then I was just going to do what I wanted to do. And so that's the thing too, though, is I think you have to look at what is the parent asking, and like, are they being direct with what they're asking? Are you just expecting them to know how to do it? Because if you tell me to go in my room and to fold up my clothes and to put them in the drawer, I hear go in my room and I hear put them in the drawer. So that part's done. Like, so have you shown the child how to fold the clothes? Have you walked with them to do it? Have you told them, my expectation is that you fold the clothes, not just my expectation is that your room is clean, or my expectation is that your clothes are put away. So I think that plays into it too, of like how clear the instructions are to the child as to whether or not they're being defiant or stubborn. They may not even understand your directions.
That is
So I think
true.
you got to go there.
So like you were saying, making those assumptions.
We had a comment from Linda, and Linda says that I believe it depends on the situation. It's true. It's true. But at the same time, though, yeah, we do have to set those clear expectations. But if I have showed you once, and we have I believe that there are steps. I showed you, I modeled it. We did it together and I watched you. Now I know you have it. Now I'm going to hold you to those expectations. So to me, there's not going to be any excuses. Now, if you flat out just refuse to put the clothes away, that's defiance. Now, if you're going to choose to do it your own way, knowing that I have set those clear expectations, now you're being stubborn. Because now what are you saying? You're saying your way is better than my way. And I'm sorry. I am the parent. You are the kid. My way is going to be right. So,
and I get that, but playing devil's advocate, though, we have to look at the fact that kids could have. I go back to that. Kids could have some type of learning disability, some type of disorder, and if it hasn't been diagnosed and we don't know it, then it comes off as being defiant. You know what I mean? So, like she said, making those assumptions. That's what I think. Now, I don't have kids, but just being devil's advocate. So we want to thank everybody. I'm sorry, Joe. We want to thank everybody for participating and thank Mike for his comment. LaShawn says, tell him. Thank you, LaShawn. Sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
yeah,
I'm
so
sorry.
I mean, you're making an assumption right there, saying that it could be ODD. The one thing that I know about ODD, oppositional defiance disorder, is that it doesn't go away on its own. If a child is ODD, it's going to be apparent in everything that they do.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, that there's going to be some counseling or something that needs to be done. But we can't just assume because the kid just balled up the clothes. Because first of all, like if you balled up the clothes, you are putting them away. That's not oppositional defiance. That's like, you told me to put it away and I'm not doing it. I'm going to fold my hands, and I've seen kids, I'm going to fold my hands or I'm going to throw myself down on the floor and I am not going to move.
I got you. You're right. You're right.
All right, let's go on to the next scenario then. Scenario number 2. So health challenge. So let's say your friend challenges you to improve your health by eliminating sugar from your diet for 1 week. You tell your friend on day 4 that you only had one small peppermint because you had low blood sugar. So is this an example of being stubborn or defiant? And Shemeka, I'm going to go ahead and let you respond to that one.
You gonna let me respond? So I think it is being defiant because you are trying to do things your own way. Since you are diabetic and you have low blood sugar, you probably think that you know best about your body. So to me, I think that you are being defiant because you know that sugar is not good for you, especially if you are diabetic. So to me, you should accept that challenge and not be defiant and stick to the rules because your friend wants the best for you and they want you to have good health.
Um, Go ahead, Kristen. What do you
Kristen,
think?
what
I'm
you
gonna let
think?
you comment before I comment on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess my question would be then, like, is there a time where stubbornness or defiance is a good thing? Because I don't think, I don't think you just think you know your body. I think you know your body. So if you have low blood sugar, like even if you have diabetes, you do still have to keep up your blood sugar. Like there is a level there. Like then eating one peppermint versus passing out, I think is probably better. So maybe you defy that rule or defy that challenge that one time. Or maybe you are being stubborn because you don't want to pass out. So then I guess my question would be, is there times where that's okay?
Wow. That's so good because we had that as a question.
We had that
That's
question.
awesome.
Let's go ahead. Well, you know what? Since it's put out there, let's go ahead and address it. So
ahead.
is being stubborn a good thing? You know what? And for me, I'm gonna say being stubborn can be a good thing. It depends on the situation. One thing that I had looked at, and it was very just interesting, and I had to analyze my life too, because when I'm studying and I'm looking at this, I'm looking at, hey, where do I fall into this? How does my life fall into this? So is being stubborn a good thing? So I say yes, because you're not easily influenced, you're not easily swayed. I think it's a harder time for people to bully you because you're so set in your ways. You are sticking with what you're going with and you're not letting anybody interfere with that. You stand your ground no matter what. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a good thing. You don't accept no as an answer, but in this situation though, I look at it as you said stubborn or defiant, Shemeka?
I said defiant.
Defiant. I think defiance comes in when you didn't tell your friend. If you don't tell your friend and you're hiding it, why don't you just come out and say, you know what, I'm feeling a little shaky. I'm feeling a certain way. I've dealt with some issues with blood sugar and that, but just come out and say it. Hey, you know what? I know we had this challenge going on, and I'm sorry. So for me, I think that's where stubborn comes in, because you are set in your own attitude and mind frame that, hey, I'm not going to tell him I feel this way. I feel a little shaky. I feel like I'm going to pass out. I need some sugar. You know what I'm saying? But you withhold it and don't tell him. So for me, I think of it as being a little bit more stubborn than defiant.
Well, I do. I think it's being defiant because you felt like you should get credit for the fact that you only ate the one small peppermint. And the reason that this one is so personal to me is because this happened to me. So, they're just like, oh, so you just gonna have sugar, you don't need to be eating sugar. But I'm just like, well, my blood sugar was going low, just like Krista said, like, I don't want to pass out. Like, don't you want to just let me eat just the one little peppermint? Because I know my body. Like, I know what's gonna happen if I don't have some sugar in my body. And I don't want to pass out.
So did you slip? Like, did you slip and tell your friend, or did you just come out and be like,
no,
did you
I did.
slip, or did you?
I was truthful and honest because they were asking, for a report, how I was doing, what I had been eating and things like that. And I did. I was honest about it. I wasn't trying to hide it or anything. I didn't like that I did it because I do want to improve my health and change my diet and things like that. But I was honest about it, what I did. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, hey, that wasn't. I mean, I get what Kristen was saying, because in this situation, it could be life threatening. So I get it. Where you put into a situation where this is my health. Like, I get it, but just I always say be upfront and be honest. Just be like, hey, I know I got this challenge, but you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna let you know. And I'm not eating it at stubbornness just because I want a piece of candy, or whatever. It's there's a real need. So I can kind of see that a little bit though.
Yeah, but and then some people think that you're making an excuse though whenever you say that, even though I thought I was trying to explain, I was making an excuse. So
well, I mean, some people do. It just depends on it. Like if the chocolate's really good and you can't stop yourself, then
That's
maybe.
And then if it's dark chocolate, you be like, oh, it's got antioxidants, so it's okay for me to eat it.
Oh, well, now that's an excuse right there.
Wait, but it's dark chocolate though.
No,
it's not real chocolate.
It's sugar. No.
Okay,
See, you being stubborn, you're being stuck in your ways.
Okay, I got you.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take a commercial break, and we'll be back right after this commercial on Words versus Words with Friends podcast.
The judge is saying to them, look, you did wrong. I have the authority to give you this favor. This is the sneaky thing about grace, is that grace is not a free pass.
This person violated the traffic laws, I think that the judge showed mercy because this person deserves something greater than just having to pay the court fees.
And he went ahead and offered him some grace and said, you know what, I'm gonna drop that ticket and all you have to pay is the court fees. So he put himself in the driver's shoes and
Thank you so much. Welcome back to Words versus Words with Friends podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in with us tonight. That was a clip from our last episode, Grace versus Mercy, and we had a very special guest, Pastor LaShawn Mims from Judah Fellowship. So it was awesome. You can check out that full episode on Facebook at WvWWF or any major podcast platform.
Yeah. So we did you want to move on to scenario 3, Joe? Okay, so we have customer service rep for the third one. Okay, so you call a company to resolve your account issues. The customer service rep is unable to assist you. You ask to speak with the supervisor, but the rep refuses to transfer you. Is this an example? Was the customer service rep being stubborn or being defiant? So, Kristen, as our guest, what do you think?
Oh, let's see. I mean, I think in that case, if they're not gonna transfer you, even if there's not anything they can do, like they don't know what their supervisor is gonna say. And so I would think they were being defiant.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if it's, again, like it depends on the situation. Like if there's a confrontation happening, if maybe it's kind of a power struggle and they feel like, okay, this is the only way that I can get my power back is by just telling you no. I think especially in customer service, like the goal is to make the other person feel calm, feel at ease. And so even if there's nothing you can do, then you can still send them to your supervisor and let them tell them that. And it still makes the other person feel better. So I think to do that is really just being defiant and trying to start an argument.
Guys, if you're just tuning in, we want to hear your feedback, what your perspective. You can go ahead and comment. Go ahead, drop it in the comments, and we will share with the group. So we want you to we want to know, what do you think? Do you think that this is an example of being stubborn or defiant? So so this right here is an example of something that I have personally went through. I was, working on my credit score, whatever. There was some derogatory marks on my credit report, and so I called the company and I was just like, hey, the credit bureau. And I was like, hey, you know what? I paid this, I settled this and so he was just like, well, he wasn't understanding what I was saying. I was just like, well, I just want to, it's been taken care of. I have a zero balance. Like, can you just remove it? It's negatively impacting my credit report, my credit score. And he's like, you want to do what? He couldn't understand what I wanted. I said, I want to have it removed. I want it taken off because it's been settled. It's been paid for. And he was like, well, you want them to know that the company know that you paid for it? No, I want it taken off. I want it completely removed. And I was like, you're not understanding what I'm saying. So anyway, I was like, can I speak to a manager? And he was just like, no, he's going to tell you the same thing I said. I was like, you're not understanding what I'm saying. Can you please transfer me over so I could speak to somebody who can understand what I'm saying? And so he just completely just refused to. It was just like this big argument. I was like, sir, please. I want this fixed. I've called. This was not my first time calling. I've called several times. Can you, I just need to talk to somebody because you guys are not taking care of this. So
well, I think it was being defiant because I think sometimes the customer service rep could have thought, well, I hear this time and time again. Like you mentioned, they told you, oh, well, the supervisor's going to tell you the same thing I just told you. So I think they're just like, oh, I hear this day in and day out. I already know what the supervisor's going to say. So you're not talking to them. So I think they were being defiant.
But I see some stubbornness there because you're set in your own ways. You're not budging. You're not letting me go through. You're not going to transfer. You're set in your ways. And no matter how much I push and no matter how much I talk to you, it's like you are set in your way and nobody can change that. Nobody can. So this, no matter what I said, no matter how many reasons that I gave him as far as, helping me out, he still was just like, hey, this is the way we take care of it. This is the way we do business. He's telling me what I needed to do. You need to call the company, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm calling you to fix it. I'm calling you guys. So definitely stubbornness. Could there be a possibility where there's both?
I think so.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think you could be naturally stubborn and already like, okay, well, I know what my supervisor is going to say. And then I think someone can also piss you off. And then you're like, okay, well, now you're definitely not talking to them. And it turns into an argument. And I think that's where like the defiance comes in.
Yeah. Because I mean, yeah. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because I work in customer service. And so I know, like, I do try to help the customer. So I don't act stubborn and I don't act defiant. But yeah, I do try to go ahead and see if, what we can do to help and see if they can talk to a supervisor. But yeah.
Wow. So you're saying this. So really what you're saying is the stubborn comes first and then the defiance comes after that. And so the stubborn is the attitude that you have toward whatever you're facing, and then the defiance is that outward demonstration of that stubbornness. Is that what you're saying?
I actually think that's a really good explanation.
I do too.
Let's go on to the next one.
My favorite one.
Number 4, employee. So you have an employee who turns in paperwork with purple marker written on it. You ask the employee to rewrite it using black or blue ink. The employee copies the page and gives you the copy. Kristen, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, this is some stuff that I would do, so I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably defiant. Because I don't like you for whatever reason if that's what's happening. Like, you're not about to make me do this over. I already did my job. You don't pay me enough for this. If I turned it in a purple marker, there's a reason for that. Because, I mean, if you're a professional, like, you're not doing that, right? Wow. So I'm pretty sure that's defiance.
Wow. So being unprofessional, first of all, this is somebody, your boss is telling you to do this, I mean, and any type of document, any type of paperwork, I mean, you're going to do it in blue or black ink because, I mean, it's an important document, so you should have known that already. But I see stubbornness in there because you wanted to do it the way you wanted to do it. Yeah, sure. You turned it in. Sure you did. Now, and there is your black copy. There is your black ink because it was copied, on the copier. So now the ink is no longer purple, it is black. You know what I'm saying? So like to me, like I kind of have to laugh, because at the same time it's like, how could somebody like do something like that? Like, are you like trying to push somebody's button? Like, are you like literally trying? I don't know. I mean, could it be because they don't like the person? I mean, but even still, like, your job is your job, and you being professional should be still being professional. But I see stubborn written all over this. Guys, if you're tuning into Facebook, we want to hear, what do you think about this scenario right here?
So Mike, thank you for your comment. And he says the employee made a copy in black and white. Yep, that's the combination of defiance and stubbornness. So I do think that in a way, maybe that was smart for them to do it, but they were being defiant because they were given specific instructions. They were told, I need this in black, I need this in blue ink. So to me, they were being defiant. They were just like, oh, that's how you want it, I'm just gonna make this copy and give it to you. So yeah, I think they were being defiant.
Wow.
I'm gonna say, I think they technically fulfilled the task. So if the marker was skinny enough, like maybe I would probably try to get it by the first time, because I'm like, I don't want to rewrite this. So there could be that motivation there too, of just like, I don't really feel like doing this. And it may not be defiance or stubbornness, but if it's like, we're talking like a big marker, you can tell it's still marker, and they just copied it, that's defiance. I don't like you.
But the fact that it being in purple is wrong, period. Whether it's thick or thin or whatever, you wrote in a color marker, and you shouldn't. It's an important document that actually goes in files. You know what I'm saying? So if that needs to be pulled later for like court or some type of legal action or something, you know what I'm saying? It's there.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, but at the same time though, I laugh because I'm like, wait a minute, I had to sit here and think about it, because I'm like, wait a minute, is this really being clever? Is this person being clever?
Are they thinking outside the box?
I did, and then when I said, what'd you say?
Oh, I just said, like I said, I think I would try it. Like, I don't feel like doing this over. So we're gonna copy it. We're gonna see what you say.
Yeah. Maybe they did it just to see the reaction, but at the same time, yeah, I do see that. I think laziness too can be a form of stubbornness, because if you choose not to do something because you're asked to do it, then that's stubbornness right there. I mean, you're like, I did the task in the first place. Yeah, sure, it wasn't right the first time that I did it wasn't the correct way, but at least, and some people have the attitude, but at least I did it. It's done. So that is stubbornness. And then to say, hey, you know what? Now I'm going to copy it on this paper and, copy it. And now it's black, so I don't have to worry about it. Task complete. No, I'm sorry. Wrong.
See, I don't want to derail us too much, but I don't believe in laziness. I don't think people are lazy. I think there's always something behind it. So, I mean, like, it could just be your pure dislike of something. It could be you're overwhelmed. It could be, you're underpaid. It could be, today just was not the day. Like, but there's always a reason behind something other than just being lazy. I just don't feel like it,
Oh, wow.
I think even depression could be behind it too, possibly.
Yeah. I think a lot of times undiagnosed depression does come off as what we would call like lazy.
Yes.
But there's always something there.
That depends, because I was depressed, and I didn't have a choice to be lazy. I couldn't stay home. So, but you know what? This is a perfect example of a future podcast, Kristen, and we're going to have you come back on and talk about the word lazy. Exactly. Because we're going to have to take your perspective on that, because you truly have a different perspective than what I was thinking laziness is.
That's good. And Mike says this might bring us back to being ADHD. Yes, exactly. Because there are so many things that that could be behind what we, like she said, what we consider being lazy.
But we can circle back around and say, I think that applies to stubbornness and defiance too. Like so many things could be behind what we consider. So I think you have to kind of look behind what you see as stubbornness or defiant and see, am I taking this action personally, and actually talk to the person and be like, hey, what's going on here? Like, did you hear what I said? You know?
That's, you know what, that's so true. You know, because I do work at a school, in a school system, public school system, and we really have to analyze the situation, because when a child refuses to do something, is it because they're being defiant or stubborn, or is it because they don't know how to? And so for me, like, I would have to get down to the root of the situation. I have to analyze the problem. Hey, what's going on? Tell me from the beginning to the end, you know, what's going on with this child. Because yeah, a lot of the times it may not be stubbornness or defiance. It just may be the lack of the ability to get that task done. You know, so yeah, I mean, you definitely have to look into it a little bit deeper.
Right.
So we're gonna wrap it up here. Any last comments, Kristen?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay. Shemeka,
Really
any last comments?
Any last comments? Well, we just want to thank everybody for tuning in this week, giving us those comments, giving us that feedback. With stubborn and defiant, I think they can tie together. And like Joe said, I think if you are stubborn, it could possibly turn into defiance. Like Kristen said, it could be a lot of reasons behind why you're being stubborn or defiant. It could be about perspective. So yeah, I thank you guys for watching. We appreciate you guys so much, and we love having Kristen here as our guest.
Yes,
thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much, Kristen. So for me, pretty much, you know, stubbornness, there's a time to be stubborn where it can, I think that it could be beneficial, especially if it gives you that perseverance, or, you know, when somebody tells you no and you're faced with a situation, you know, like when the doctor says, hey, you know what, there's no diagnosis for that sickness, you have cancer, or right now I'm facing my son with his eye issue about, you know, has an eye disease, progressive eye disease, where he needs cornea transplants, and so he right now runs the risk of, if that does not get corrected, him becoming blind. And so right now he is considered, according to the doctors, legally blind, because he has the font has to be really, really big in order for him to see it. And so I can take that situation, and I can accept that, or I can say, you know what, I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to use that stubbornness that's within inside of me and say, I'm not going to accept that as an answer. I'm going to go out and and that's always been with everything that I've done. Taking no for an answer is not something that I always settle for. For me, I'm going to go out and I'm going to find a solution to that problem. I'm going to find out a situation to that problem. You know what I'm saying? Whether I have bad credit or something, and it's like, no, you can't get this loan, you can't get this car. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to find a way to get it. I'm not going to just settle for no. And I think that's where my stubbornness comes in, because it drives me to go forward, and it drives me to not give up. So for me, stubborn, I think sometimes can be a good thing. Now, being defiant, that's a whole nother story. Like, if you're defiant, that's flat out, hey, I ain't gonna do it no matter what you say. But if I can be stubborn and find an alternative solution and come up with a different situation, turn it around in a different way, then I'll go ahead and be stubborn any day. So good. Kristen, thank you so much. So would you tell everybody where they can follow you? Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. What do you like to do?
So I'm trying to think anything that Mika hasn't said. But yeah, so I'm her younger sister. I am here in Dallas. I really like watching movies, watching TV. I scroll Twitter like crazy. So you can always follow me there, because that's pretty much the only social media that I actually use. And let's see, what else I like to do. I like to dance. I like trying new things. Yeah, that's pretty much me. Like,
So I see that you're a little adventurous. So I kind of went on your Instagram a little earlier, and I was just scrolling and looking at something. I'm like, wow, this is really good. You got a hot air balloon, just the rise, I guess, floating up in the air and everything. And I saw all these things that you were doing. I was like, look, painting with a twist. She does this and that, you know. Is there something that you've done that stands out that's like your most favorite thing you've ever done?
Oh man. Well, first of all, here's a trick to looking adventurous. You only post when you're doing something. So I post like maybe once or twice a year, but everyone who looks at my Instagram is like, oh, you do so much. And I'm like, yeah, that's on purpose. Man, probably my favorite thing. Oh man. I was like, that's a very good question. I actually really, really enjoyed that hot air balloon festival. So I didn't actually ride in a hot air balloon, but they have a festival in Albuquerque that they do like a week long, just hot air balloons, and they have different theme days. And so the day that we went, it was like characters, and there were penguins, there was like Star Wars, there were all kinds of different characters in these balloons, and just like watching them all take off at the same time. It was nice. Phenomenal.
Nice. I'm gonna add that to my bucket list. I'm like, I just recently started traveling, and trying new things, living life, So I'm gonna have to definitely check that out. Like that's pretty cool. That's cool.
It actually happens in October, so maybe you can check it out this year.
All right. Okay. Nice.
Cool. That's cool.
Okay. Anything else that you're a part of that maybe you want to let everybody know? Like, what do you do as far as your career?
So I am a social worker. I work with an organization called CASA. And actually, wherever you are, most of the time, CASA is there. So if you've ever wanted to help a kid who is in foster care, if you've ever wanted to be a mentor, if you ever want to be somebody stable for a kid and you have some free time, I would definitely encourage you to look into becoming a CASA. And so that's what I do for work, and I really enjoy it. I enjoy the volunteers that I work with, and being able to provide some stability for these kids that are in care that have not very much. So
well, we definitely appreciate you and what you offer these kids every day. We definitely appreciate it. I know for myself how important it is of an impact that we can have on children, and when we have that positive impact, how important that is. So thank you so much for what you do every single day and the lives that you are touching every day. Shemeka, do you have any questions for you?
I don't know that I have any. I know the last time. Oh, Linda says, what does CASA mean?
Oh, I completely forgot about that. So CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate. So you work with the attorneys and with the judge in your county to basically kind of monitor a kid's case whenever they come into foster care. And so you're a friend of the court, and you also get to build a relationship with kids. So
that's nice. Awesome.
That's cool.
Shemeka?
I don't have any questions for her, but I just want to let you guys know you can follow me on Instagram at Mika Lives. Also, you can follow me on Facebook at Shemeka Montgomery.
And Kristen, I don't know if you told everybody where they can follow you.
Oh, I completely forgot about that. You can follow me on Twitter. You just have to search my full name because I cannot remember my @ and I also am on Instagram and Facebook. And like I said, I post like once or twice a year, so you can hit me up around those posts.
Good. And you can follow me on Joeleen Vasquez on both Facebook and Instagram. And you can follow Words vs. Words with Friends podcast on Facebook at WvWWF. And you can also follow us on Instagram at WvWWF podcast. And you can also check out all of our episodes. We have episodes from season 1. We have episodes from season 2. You can check that out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. So we definitely appreciate you guys tuning in today, and you can check us out every Friday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Facebook. We will check you out later on, and we want you to remember that on Words vs. Words with Friends podcast, it's more than a discussion, it's a debate. See you next week. You've been watching Words vs. Words with Friends podcast, brought to you by Next 15 Podcast Productions. If you would like to support the podcast, go to next15podcast.com and click the Buy Me Coffee tab, where we will receive your donations of any size. Thank you in advance and for watching the podcast. We will see you next week.